Hi, welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, I'm a programmer at TIFF now, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Michaela Watkins, an actor and comedian you've seen in everything. On TV in Casual and The Unicorn and Trophy Wife and New Girl and Transparent and Search Party and The Dropout, and in movies like Lynn Shelton's Sword of Trust, Nicole Holofcener's Enough Said and You Hurt My Feelings, and Josh Rubin's Werewolves Within. Now she's starring in Dane Clark and Lindsay Stewart's spiky comedy Suze as an empty nester who takes in the doofus ex-boyfriend her daughter dumped when she left for college. The movie's a charmer, and Watkins is great in it, and it's in theaters across Canada right now. You should check it out. Michaela picked Valley Girl, Martha Coolidge's 1983 romance starring Deborah Foreman as Julie, a San Fernando Valley teen swept off her feet by a love-struck Hollywood kid named Randy, who's played, in his first leading role, by Nicolas Cage. A seminal 80s teen picture before they were codified into something slicker and more commercial, Valley Girl is an earnest, weird two-hander that pulls you into its love story almost without you noticing. It's a charmer too, even if it's very much of its time. You'll see. This is Someone Else's Movie.
I was 12, but that was around when we were starting to, renting things on VHS. And so I was probably around, I was definitely listening to the Frank Zappa, Moon Zappa song, Valley Girl. So it was, even though I was growing up in Syracuse, New York, it had definitely made its way to, Valley Speak has definitely made its way out here. And we were all emulating that all over the place. And, but I remember, obviously it was our first time seeing Nicolas Cage. And when I watched it again, I was like, he's a star. Like he was a star then in his very first feature. And he was a star. I mean, to put him on the scene, I guess. I'm assuming it was his first feature, but he had it. He had that thing. But also for me, I wanted to talk about it because it's so weird to be able to sit in two different bodies and watch the same movie. And so I was, the whole time I was watching it, I was in a constant conversation with myself with, teenage me and just turning 50 something me. And so I just was, my head was just bopping back and forth and really in awe of some things and then really genuinely upset about other things. Just understanding that there's so much to say about it. Where do you want to start?
I mean, that's exactly it. There is a huge gulf, right, between who we were, who we are, how we processed art, and how we do now, the things you bring to a film with experience and age. We just did an episode on the Red Shoes with Meredith Hammer Brown, who's a filmmaker who made a terrific film called Seagrass. And she'd only seen it last year. She'd never seen it before. And I've grown up with it as like this received wisdom as a cult object, as one of the greatest films ever made. And I don't disagree. I think it's an exceptional movie. But to see it fresh now, I would love that opportunity. And with Valley Girl, my wife hadn't seen it. Kate and I watched it together last night. I saw it, I guess, maybe when the DVD came out, because it had the corrected soundtrack, and that was a big deal. Some music replacement. I mean, there are songs on the soundtrack album that aren't in the film. There's songs in the credits that aren't in the film.
Yeah, there are, aren't there?
A few, yeah.
I've seen that happen. Like I had a short that went to Sundance that had totally different music than when it came out because we couldn't get those rights. But so that must have been what happened.
I think so. Yeah. There's a whole thing on Wikipedia about how the music rights were sort of garbled. They still managed to release the albums, but they couldn't put them in the film. And then eventually they had to replace the music, for VHS. So the music on the videotape isn't the same as the music on the DVD. Universal went through a whole bunch of these. This is like the only time I can think of that it happened with an MGM title. According to Wikipedia, anyway, the budget for the film is $250,000. The budget for the music rights ended up being $350,000 on top of that.
Of course, right? Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Also, by the way, the fact that the budget is, what'd you say, $250,000 for the film? that's not different than indie films are now. Like, talk about things that have not grown, indie budgets have not grown. I just, it's strange to me that that film was made in 1983, you said?
Released in
I'm like
83, shot in
referring
82.
to
Yeah.
shot in 82 for the same kind of budget that you would get for a not even a first time director
Yeah.
now.
But if you exclude the cost of the film stock, which would have been a fortune, right? Like it was made for
Oh,
even
right.
less, so much less.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating to me now to watch it, because the other thing I found about it is that it's almost plotless. It really,
I know it's got a link letter quality to it, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, it kind of feels a little dazed and confused to me.
Just a series of people wandering around, driving, maybe kissing, maybe not.
And the sound mix is just sort of has that kind of that we're in a moment, and it's like one night. Most of the film is one night, one day, one night, and that it just sort of meanders, and it's not about anything. I mean, there's the romantic comedy quality to it, and the sort of Romeo and Juliet kind of like 16 Candles thing about it, but not 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink vibes, but I think the thing that I'll just start with what was sort of glaring out at me. One,
Please.
yes, Nicolas Cage, amazing. Two, the fashion was really something. The everything from, the pastels and everything to the Laura Ashley, Lacey, what we were trying to look like Victorian women as hot, hot teenagers. I don't understand. But also we were, it was so sexualized. So there's this, I just was watching this whole movie and the lack of consent that is going through the entire film. And I was just, I thought, this is what raised me, like this is the stuff that we were raised on. This is the ecosystem of toxic masculinity that was so not just fostered, but I think sort of had to happen. Like, I know that when Martha Coolidge made this movie, the director, when she made the movie, they weren't going to let her direct it unless she promised that they did 3 nude scenes. And so, because I was watching it at a Women in Film screening, and she was there to do this Q&A after, which was really fabulous. But I just thought, God, the only way that they would let this woman direct it, they didn't trust that she would show the boobs. So they had to put it into her contract. You will give us 3 nude scenes. And she said, the script doesn't support it. And they said, I don't care. Like, and I just picture these execs sitting around with cigars being like, just show us the boobies,
Yeah.
And it just is so gross.
Yeah.
I don't have any other way to say it, except it's just so gross. And this is the pool that formed this, that we were born in, and raised in film. And of course things are majorly screwed up. And it's amazing that we even have language for it now. I'm so happy, because there shouldn't be no reason, because we were so brainwashed to think that all guys were going to try to do was get in your pants, and that it was on us to fight them off, not on them to not do it. And you see it through the entire movie.
Yeah. I was actually really, the second time through, or maybe I guess the third time through for me, I was really impressed with how uncomfortable the nude scenes feel. Like they're not
so
lit
arbitrary.
They're not lit for attractiveness. Like it's definitely, it's neither the male gaze nor the female gaze exactly. It's some weird, ugly compromise that implicates everyone in just how uncomfortable these scenes are.
Yeah, it's like this dumb perfunctory boob just like happening. And you go, okay, I guess why? I don't know why that had to happen, but I guess it did. Also, like the other thing of just, Julie, the character Julie's parents are maybe the same age as her. In fact, all the quote unquote adults in the movie are the same age as the high school kids. I can't imagine there's a big age gap there.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at them. I'm like, who are all these babies playing adults and who are these adults playing babies? Just it was the weirdest in that way.
Yeah, well, I do think that something weird was going on in California right then too, with people stopping smoking, and so younger people looked
Hmm.
older, and older people looked like they'd stabilized somehow. Because you like, there's so like Frederick Forrest is a guy who's clearly had a life before he came to this movie,
Right.
to the point where I think he
That's
and
her
Colleen,
dad. Right?
yeah, and
He
Colleen
plays the dad.
Camp,
Yeah.
who were both in
Hmm.
Apocalypse Now, which is so weird, um, and they are constantly reminding us that he met her when she was younger. Like Colleen Camp is younger than Frederick Forrest is,
Oh,
and
oh
it's
yeah.
like, what is that about? That weird dynamic where, like, did they just improvise all of that? A lot of it does. There's a looseness to a lot of the
That's the
supplemental
other thing.
characters.
Those supplemental characters are wild. They're just so funny. But also, I mean, I say all this and I love the movie. Like I really love the movie. It meant a lot to me then, and I'm trying to think why. I definitely related more to the Hollywood kids than to the Valley kids.
Yeah.
And um, I think I aspired to be a Valley kid more than but I was too into punk rock at the time. But I think I wanted to be a cute blonde. Never was, never will be. Um, and I also the music is badass. It's amazing. It's so good. Didn't it put uh Melt with You? Is that in that movie?
Yeah, twice
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I noticed when I was watching it is that song A Million Miles Away, which I forgot was even in that movie. And they play it twice. Like he
Mm-hmm.
goes back to the same club and they're still playing. And maybe that was just for, like I said, the released edit. But I thought, geez, really like getting his money's worth out of this song at the club. But it was the I just love this movie so much, and thank God for it because it is such a time capsule of the 80s and things that you can't make up, and things that were put in here so clearly and so weird. Like I don't know if you'll catch it, but at some point she's cuddling this wooden clown. And like she
Yes.
goes to bed with this like wood clown at night, and it's the most terrifying, scary thing. And I'm just picturing that it was just happened to be on the cheap set that they were using, and so she wanted to use it. But I feel like that is terrifying, and just these weird nods through the whole film.
Yeah,
Um,
I was trying to figure out if this something the hippie parents gave a child and then just saddled her with it, because there's stuff all over the
yeah,
house, which I thought was also
yeah.
kind of this really weird specificity in the detailing, like the props and sets. You do feel like, and maybe they weren't even sets, like they may have shot on someone's in someone's home just because they didn't have the money to build them,
Mhm.
but it feels like
Oh,
you've
of course,
stumbled
they
into some
definitely
weirdo's
felt.
house, right?
Yeah, they definitely shot in someone's home. I feel like she even mentioned whose it was, like where it was.
Oh yeah.
But also, yeah, I think it was like all in Calabasas or something. But I feel like there's this amazing shift too that we get to look back and see, which is at the time I was like, ew, her parents worked at a health food restaurant,
Right.
and now it's like that would be such a status flex if you owned a health food restaurant. And but then she was so embarrassed. She's like, "Why can't you guys work at McDonald's for sure?" And
Yeah.
they're like, "No, have some soybean paste." But
Yeah.
yeah,
What is it? It doesn't taste like
um,
anything, but it's good for you. I mean, they went on to found Whole
yeah,
Foods. I'm sure of it. They're fine now.
I you oh of course, and they're probably Trumpers now too. Like the all the like hippies from then are now like the MAGA crowd now.
Somehow, yeah.
Um, Somehow,
I've
don't
never
know
understood
how.
the
Nor I.
the what is it? It's like the psychological eclipse required to go from one extreme to the other. But you see, like it's the same way that like anti-vaxxers came from the wellness crowd,
Hmm.
right? Like it's just
Right.
one thing that they hook onto.
Yeah, I think they just clip clop so far to the left that it just boing back around to the right.
Yeah.
Um, and that's my own that's my own commentary.
I refuse to consider the possibility, though, that Julie and Randy grew up to be Trumpers. They're still cool. There's no
Yeah.
way. There's those kids they're fine. And
Oh, there, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
she might have. She might have. She seemed impressionable.
he'd pull her back. I have no idea what they'd be doing now. They don't seem to have any
Yeah,
skills, but
yeah,
there is something.
exactly.
But there's something so pure, and yeah, you're mentioning the hues, mentioning Pretty in Pink makes me think of like the logical successor to that, which is Cameron Crowe in my mind, and Say Anything, where Lloyd
Mm-hmm.
just fixates on the girl of
Oh,
his dreams,
totally.
right? And
Yeah,
here,
and I think that's also, can I say that? Can I swear?
sure, bring it.
Okay. I think that's also just what fucked us up, women, for these romantic um, sort of tropes of men who are going to just, I mean, I fell for it. And like, if a guy made you know, big gestures, romantic gestures, that's all you had to do. Like it just, in my mind, it definitely got slotted as so romantic and not at all obsessive and creepy.
Right. There are versions of
Yeah.
these films where, yeah, and having Nicolas Cage stare at you across a crowded room. There are movies where that's disturbing, right? Like he's done that
He
in a
climbs
different way.
totally. I mean, he climbs into a bathroom and then waits until she comes in. And what I love is that nobody's just in there going to the bathroom. Everybody's in there applying lipstick and adjusting their bra, or hooking up or
Yeah.
doing drugs. And he's got all these expressions that is like montage of Nicolas Cageisms. And and it's, I don't know. I think the movie just has a certain tone that is unmistakably unique uh and I've never seen replicated really again. So to have a female director who gets to step in and put her stamp on it, and um even though she had to like get women to take their shirts off three times, three times, and you can shoot the movie. I mean, that was the the deal, the devil's deal
The
she
devil's
made.
bargain. Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah.
compromise, but that doesn't go far
Hmm.
enough.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a bridge to the rest of Coolidge's career where she just refused to put herself in that position again. Every movie she made,
Mm-hmm.
even the ones that aren't necessarily successful, are movies that have clear rules.
Mm-hmm.
We screened Real Genius at the Lightbox last year as part of our series
Oh, I
on 80s movies that used,
love that movie.
isn't it? It's so good.
So
Um,
good.
it prefigures I mean, honestly, a lot of it, because it was the 80s, a lot of it is about Reagan's deregulation of everything, but Real
Uh-huh.
Genius is about the overreach of the US military and creating
Oh
clandestine assassination
yeah,
programs, and
that's
also,
right.
yeah, and looping
That's
in student labor in a way that's truly horrible ethically, but justifying it with money and anti-communist propaganda. But what we found in Real Genius was also this really progressive reversal. Like Coolidge had made Valley Girl. The studio wanted her to make Revenge of the Nerds, and she refused. She made like their version
hmm
of like the Columbia version of Revenge of the Nerds, and she's
hmm
like, no, but I'll give you this. And it has slobs versus snobs, and it has jocks versus brains, and it has all the other stuff. But the women are so much more. There's only two key female roles, but they are so
hmm
much more intelligent and capable,
respectable.
respectable. But they'll also, Deborah Foreman comes back as
Hmm
William Atherton's daughter, whose only purpose in the film is to sexually harass Val Kilmer, and it's really funny because the film makes it safe, that makes it okay for them to have these bizarre conversations where she's the aggressor. And then the other one is
Right.
Michelle Mayring, who's in Valley Girl. She
hmm
plays, I want to make sure this is right, Suze, but
hmm
she also turned up in Revenge of the Nerds and was just crassly sexualized in a way that Martha Coolidge would never have treated her. And so Coolidge
hmm
gave her the role of Jordan, who's the hyperactive, smart one, and let her
hmm
be a proper nerd, like quote unquote normal nerd, and the hero of the movie in some ways.
It's just amazing. I mean, first of all, Real Genius is definitely worth a revisit. I got to go back and watch that. But also, just there's such a difference. I was really honed in working with female directors, especially indie female directors. I had a series called Casual, and it was like 70% of it was independent female directors, thanks to our female producer, which is why representation matters. but it was just such a difference, because that was a highly sexualized show in the sense that it's a woman, who's sort of finding herself sexually, and
Mhm.
so there was a lot of scenes, and the stark difference of working with women on those kinds of things where the sex scenes were so unarbitrary. It was like if there was a scene, it was, I remember Lynn Shelton said, like, how do you want to shoot this so that what are we trying to say with this scene? What do we want to do? Are you on top? Are you, whatever it is? It's like we had to really think beyond, what was going to look great or how we were going to use the space, but just like, what are we trying to actually say? Which is something that no, she called me at home, a week before we even got into it. And it was like, oh, well, this is a huge difference. And it made the scene really hot, quite honestly. Like I would normally be so, sweaty Betty over it, but I was just like, this is this is cool. Like, but this is, like everything else we do on screen where there's a reason and a choice and an objective. Like, this also is that. And it tells part of the story that makes it very exciting. Like, that this character is going through something so exciting. And, I think it's the same thing with Martha understood how to utilize women probably after that, where she, like I said, she made the devil's bargain to get that film under her belt. Then it was a success and she got to do her own thing. But I hate that we had to, that women had to do that. And, but she knew how to utilize Nicolas Cage so that he wasn't just, like in any way predatory. She understood what women were into and like what tension looked like, and his earnestness in it. And yeah, and you could
Yeah.
tell he just liked her. He just liked her a lot.
Hey, it's Norm interrupting my own show to bring you up to speed on Shiny Things, my newsletter about physical media, culture, and the odd streaming project. Last week, I wrote about Sony's new Columbia Classics 4K Megaset, it's the 4th volume, and new releases of Darkman, Footloose, Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, and the Gate movies. Sign up for a 14-day free trial at shiny-things.ghost.io or find a link at the Semcast Blue Sky account. You like reading about movies? I like writing about them. Come check it out. The thing that I found really fascinating is not only do they not have sex, and she comments, like Julie actually says that late in the film, oh, we haven't gotten there yet, but she doesn't say it with embarrassment, or she doesn't say it like she's being pressured. But that compared to the spectacularly non-sexy nude scenes, or the non-sexy sex scenes involving nudity, where men are pressuring women or peeping on them or leering on them, when Randy and Julie are kissing, like they're full on necking in a really clearly happy, like empowering, satisfying. I don't know what the appropriate term is, but we're watching a healthy relationship, even though the movie's really sketchy on what it is that Randy wants beyond to kiss Julie. Sometimes that's kind of enough when you're a teenager.
I feel like he's about to say, I don't want to sell anything that's not going to be produced or bought. I want to buy anything that's not going to be sold. Like you said, it falls into that Roy Dobler thing. But yeah. I feel like just what you were saying, that I think what it sort of relit up in me, that I just found myself smiling and beaming at their scenes together, because it took me back to that very sort of innocent time where just making out in a car, with this guy that was it. You didn't need any food. You didn't need sustenance. You didn't need a house or job. You didn't need anything. You just needed, that was it. That was the brass ring.
Yeah. And to be a teenager and see that at a time when, well, I mean, even in that movie, when otherwise everybody's being pressured to just hook up and be done with it. And there are movies about that right now where people are just deciding they want to give in to pressure just to get it over with. That's not what this is. Like, this is something else, which I find really fascinating in the early 80s teen comedies. Like they're sort of codifying while you're watching them. Because on one side, we've got, like, I don't know, Fast Times at Ridgemont High the year before, which is actually the first time that Cage had a real proper role. It was a supporting role. I think he plays a
Oh,
fry cook,
right.
but this was his first lead.
Yes.
And then
Oh
on
my
the
God, of course.
right,
Yes.
because he's so
Right.
memorable, and just even the first time, yeah, as you said, the first time he shows up on screen, it's just like, oh, this guy's a movie star. He's like,
Yeah.
he's got something. I mean, yes, he's shirtless on a beach, being awesome.
Yeah, but they make fun of him being
Yeah,
shirtless. They say, look at that guy, he's got so much hair.
yeah, and he lets you laugh with him in a way that maybe another actor wouldn't in that role. Like even I don't think, yeah, Lloyd Dobler is self-aware, but I don't think he invites the level of engagement from the audience. Like Lloyd Dobler is an impossibly nice person. Randy has a temper. He wants to be a punk. He's not very good at it. But there's somebody in there who's trying to figure out who he is. And what I get from the movie is that when he's with Julie, he can be that person. And that person's kind of sweet and nice. And he reverts, right? Like any great romantic movie will have that third act challenge where the two misunderstand each other. And in this one, Julie gets scared, makes a bad choice, tries to dump him. He won't accept it. And he goes off, but not in a, like, I think that's when you sort of see the actor Nicolas Cage that we recognize come out, the guy who goes big. But the minute Randy pulls it back in, it's so clear that the character is choosing to do that. It's not the actor. And that's why he's worthy of her ultimately, because he'll accept the rejection, even if it harms him.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a great point with that. Absolutely. And I think that, about him being himself with her, I think that's really true. And what's sort of sad about this movie is the kind of what it says about teenagers and the truthfulness around wanting to fit in so badly that Julie dumps him because her friends, it's not inconvenient with her friends. She realizes there's no future in them because she can't have her friends are not going to continue to stay friends with her if she dates a loser. And she prioritizes them. I mean, she even asks them, like, can you please? And they're more they're more beholden to the popular kind of date rapey guy than they are to this sort of poor guy from the other side of the hill,
Yeah.
So I think that was like the vibes too in the 80s. I think it was, I think that there was so much peer pressure to date the right person in high school because it was really going to make your life, it's difference between your life being easy or difficult.
Yeah. Well, and of course
people were snobs. It was the 80s. It was like materialism. It was gross.
Yeah, everybody looks like
you said.
Yeah, everybody looks like a Bret Easton Ellis character, and it's dressing.
Yeah.
I mean, I admire the stabs at diversity. There are a couple of characters of color, although they don't really have that much to do. And I think the one with the most lines is, unfortunately, the guy in the car who gets out and does the full-on Latino gangbanger thing. But
although it's interesting because what I liked was there was not a lot of diversity at all, except in the party scene. There was all the high school kids. There was a lot of Black high school kids, and it was never pointed out. It was never like it was never noted. It's just everybody was sort of mixing and together. And I can imagine that I'm guessing Martha was probably like, no, let's make it look realistic, because I can't imagine the studio was necessarily prioritizing that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And she does it
but
in
it is so
Real
weird.
Genius too, in a couple of key scenes.
Yeah. Every time I go back though and look at any of these movies, the lack of diversity is also so immediately jarring. And you just can't believe that was ever just a normal thing, just something we all just accepted as normal.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, the defense at the time was it's who shows up for the auditions. It was like, that's not really true,
it's
is
not
it?
true, because I'm I was considered exotic back then. I was, I didn't get cast in things because I was quote unquote, they wanted someone pure as the driven snow. Like I was not white enough, anybody who had who was not the like pretty lead, that's like, or anybody who had their idea of diversity was someone like me. And I don't know that I don't think I fit that description. I mean, in some ways, not in my ethnicity, probably.
Yeah, but would you want to?
Did I want to play the leads? Absolutely. Would anybody have let me? No. Would I have to have looked different, acted different, sounded different to do it? Absolutely. But would I have minded if someone gave me a shot? Absolutely not. I would have loved it. But I fell into character actress, and character actress and ethnic actors were the same category. That's my point.
Right.
Is that and now we understand that's total bullshit. But at the time, when I was coming up, that I would be called in and it would be me and, like a very diverse room. But I thought, oh, this is my category, I guess, So it was very strange. Like you would have you would have either white comedians or non-white people. And that was one lump of category. It's pretty pathetic.
Right. The funny friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And no matter if you could be the most beautiful, beautiful Korean actress ever who's not funny, and you would still be in the exact same category, as you know. So
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that we're running. Every retrospective has these. They're not pitfalls because they should be pointed out and observed because that's the only way you learn. But it is kind of striking to go back and see, oh yeah, there's this huge blind spot that this movie has, or that there's this truly offensive thing hiding in the middle of it that no one's talking about.
Right.
And Valley Girl, I mean, it's uncomfortable, but I think it's uncomfortable in ways that are intentional. And
I do think it holds up. I do, actually. Yeah.
And it's the power, it's the direction mostly, but it's also Foreman and Cage. Like they're so good together. And Deborah Foreman, who is like this, stereotypical Barbie, basically. Like you get this corn-fed, blonde, great teeth, big smile. Like there's everything about her is designed to look like a Southern California Valley Girl from 1983. She fit it perfectly, but she also has this shyness or this sly intelligence, some remove. There are times when, because the dialogue, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is like the use of slang, which isn't exactly right. Like it doesn't sound right now. It probably is more authentic to the way people were talking than the Zappa song, which is how we all remember it. Because they just sort of folded in here and there for sure's and, like I wouldn't ever and things like that. But she manages to give it a humanity that would otherwise not be there. Like she thinks before she speaks sometimes, and she knows she's making mistakes as she makes them. Like the whole scene, the diner scene where she just sort of casually agrees to dump Randy and get back together with the most boring man in the world, the most boring boy in the world. She plays it with real regret, and like you can see the scales turning in her head as she's making this decision. Like she's evaluating her decision. She realizes it's the wrong one, but she makes it anyway. And I think that's all Foreman and Coolidge for letting us see it in her. But it's such a great moment that totally passed me by the first time I saw the film.
Yeah. And even in the friend group, there's a really nice, archetype for each friend. The one who's just the really insecure one, the prudy one, the one who's like, we can't do this, we can't be seen doing this, we can't, that uptight kind of thing. And then the one who's just desperate to hook up and and have the boy like her. And oh my God, what about serving sushi at that party? They're like butter. Eating uni. They're like eating uni like it's normal.
It is horrible. But the parents are so well-meaning. And yeah, as you said, they're just kids themselves. They have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a cool trip. It was just weird. I just while I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is why we're so screwed up. Because this was like, this is what we were being served up is guys were just allowed to be lascivious, gross, and coercive, and we had to, like we just had to fight them off. I did this tour, a comedy tour in Iraq during the war in 2009, and I remember we were at the base in Baghdad, and uh, I woke up there, and they had this like closed caption TV on the base that anybody could watch, and in between they would had the what was that Cameron Diaz Las Vegas movie
Oh, What Happens
with
in Vegas, the one
What
with
Happens in
the
Vegas
one with
was just
Kuchar.
playing was just playing on a loop over and over and over. And in between it were these little public service announcements, and they were all, women, talking to their female service members saying, if you are out with a man, remember, like, here's ways to not get raped is
Oh,
basically
Jesus.
what the PSAs were. And I was like, where are the PSAs for don't rape? Like, where are those? Where is that? It's just all these are PSAs for how not to, get caught in a compromised situation. What?
Yeah.
Like, just what? It was 2009 still, and that was the mentality.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Kirby Dick made a whole movie about it a couple of years later, I think, The Invisible War. And he
Yeah.
just mentioned in passing that, yeah, that's the culture. Like everybody over and over
Mhm.
saying that's just how it is. It's like, it doesn't have to be. And the way you start is with the counter PSAs, but you also you use every tool you have to teach, to change course, to redirect.
But just like the culture was like, hey, like it was sort of this acceptance, like, hey, gals, this is probably going to happen to you. So here's
Yeah.
how to stop it. Instead of, hey, guys, do not ever even think about doing this, you scumbags, And I think it's interesting because Martha Coolidge she was date raped when she was 16, and she made a movie about it. And I think it just got re-released recently, and I'm dying to see it. Like I'm just so curious. I think she made it so long ago. It might have been like while she was still a student or something.
Oh, that was not a pretty picture, right? Yes.
Yeah, I really want to see that. I'm just so curious what she would have made then, about that. Like when the conversation wasn't being had in that way.
Yeah, I remember I heard about it a number of times way, way back when. I'm not sure how or why. I've never seen it, but
Mhm.
yeah, the restoration premiered. I'm just reading the wiki page, of course. Restoration premiered in December 22 at the Academy Museum in Hollywood. I wonder if Criterion's going to do something with it, or at least put it on the channel. That seems like a logical thing. Wow, I
Yeah.
work for a Cinematheque. Maybe we can do something with that. We tried.
Ooh,
Thank you for bringing
we
this to my
should.
attention. Yeah, we tried to get her
Sure.
in for Real Genius, but we couldn't work it out.
Hmm.
But this might be a better hook, even. Wow.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
amazing. Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, now I'm being distracted by reading the Wikipedia page. I had no idea. I mean, I knew, I just didn't connect the two. I knew it existed, but I didn't know it was a personal project. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, but that does explain a great deal about everything else she's made. And she's
Uh-huh.
more intelligent and sympathetic and tuned into the concept of consent and agency.
Yeah.
If she's had to
Yeah.
tell that story herself already once.
Hmm. And let's say one more thing about this film, which is the song. There's a song called "Johnny, Are You a Queer Boy?"
Yeah,
And
I
it
was trying to
is.
figure out how we get to that.
I know it is the catchiest song, and now you're just a little like you break out into a hot sweat because it's probably just really. But it's just yes and no. I mean, it was also. That was a great. I mean, New Wave was all about embracing, queerness too, and just and that's all of a sudden there's this wave of people, sort of non-binary looks, and
Mhm.
the Eurythmics and men in eyeliner and using more hairspray and mousse than ever before. And I think it's. I don't know. I just think it's. I don't personally. I'm. I guess it. I was sort of laughing at how I did not get the feeling that the singer who wrote it is homophobic, but
No, no.
it did remind me of the incredible level of homophobia that was so rampant,
Yeah, very much
obviously
so.
the time of AIDS, and it was teachers were getting fired for being gay and things like that. It's just not even that long ago. That's what's so wild, and it's mind-boggling that it ever was even allowed to be. But
Yeah.
at
No,
least, it shows us that people can change, societies can change. And yeah, there's some people who don't change and won't change. But for the most part, I think the appetite for diversity, for inclusion is just completely shifted. And it's been cool to see. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it is, you're watching an incredibly insulated art form open up, right? The American
Hmm.
romantic comedy, bit by bit.
Hmm.
And what's possible now is absolutely so much more interesting, just on a base
Hmm.
level, because we're seeing experiences that we've never seen before. We're seeing people tell stories who haven't been allowed to tell those stories. And as a result, they've been working on them their entire lives and sharpening them and
Hmm.
making them more powerful, more universal, or funnier, depending on what they want to do, right? You were seeing
Hmm.
the advantage of opening up the playing field. And yeah, Johnny, are you queer? Just I read the lyrics. I had to go back and look them up. But yeah,
Oh, did you?
the joke's on the singer, right? Like it's just
Yeah,
she's writing somebody off because he doesn't like her, and she's
right.
homophobic, but the song's not.
No, the song is so pop and catchy. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was written for the Go Go's, but they didn't perform it initially. So Josie Cotton went off
Josie.
and did it
Hmm. Right.
and recorded it. But there is a live version of it on a Go Go's B sides album, and it's really just it's a banger. It's a great song. Damn it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great song. I think it can be reclaimed for sure. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how we make this work. Usually there's a transitional point in the podcast where I wrap up by asking the guest if there's something of the film they chose that they've referenced, incorporated, homaged in their own work. I've been trying for hours to figure out if you've ever done a for sure in any of your roles, and maybe in a sketch or something. But is there something that I missed?
I haven't been a Valley girl, but I would say that seeing this movie at a formative age was one. I mean, it's got a very indie feeling of indie vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was when I started to get really into indie film in the 90s, when I would just take myself alone to the movie theaters and to the Angelica and wherever else I was living. I moved to Portland and I would just go see films all the time. It would definitely hit a happy place for me. And I would sort of trace something like that back to a movie like this. I would also say that I was a huge romantic, and I was very interested in romantic comedies specifically. And I, they were, it, the, the way that when chemistry works, it just so works. And how there was this like sort of romantic comedy boom in the early aughts,
Mm-hmm.
where every time I got on an airplane there was like a different one, 2 billion dresses and this person's exes and that kind, and it's
Right.
just there wasn't always the chemistry, it wasn't always, it just, some of it felt really forced and really weird. There's something about this film, there's an authenticity uh to the crush, to falling in love, to whatever that was, that I try to bring to everything I do. Like I really 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 need that authenticity, or it just feels so dumb to me. And let's see, is there anything else? I um I don't know. I think it's just one of those films that goes to show, like, everything I do. Like budget isn't the definition of a good film. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
it's like, yeah, go find out who's making it, and even if it's a first time director, if you think they understand themselves enough, then it'll probably be an interesting movie.
My thanks to Michaela Watkins, whose new film Suze is now playing in theaters across Canada and hopefully coming soon to the US. Thanks also to Angie Power. She knows what she did. You can find Michaela on Instagram at Michaela Watt, all one word, Michaelawat, and you can find Valley Girl on Blu-ray in a really great special edition from Shout Studios. It's also streaming on Hoopla and Tubi in the US and Canada, and available to rent and buy on various VOD services across North America. You can find me on Blue Sky at Norm Wilner, and you can find this podcast there at Semcast, S-E-M-Cast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. The first year of the show is still available for just $20 at payhip.com/Semcast. That's the first 52 episodes of Someone Else's Movie, 44 of which aren't currently available anywhere else. And check out my newsletter, Shiny Things, at shiny-things.ghost.io. I think you'll enjoy it. Our theme song is by The Last Year. If you like it, or the show in general, please say so. Leave a review wherever you've been listening. Every little bit helps. It truly does. And check out the other shows on the Frequency Podcast Network while you're doing that. Stay safe, watch movies, wear a mask if you go out, get the new booster when you can. I'll see you next week.